February might have been the shortest month of the year, but many books were definitely read. Hey friends, I'm Courtney and welcome to my channel. If you haven't already watched it, I suggest watching my March to be read or March TBR video where I go over all the books that I want to read for this month. Yes, I'm doing a February recap, so I probably should have done that in reverse, but still exciting to see the books that I want to read, both audio and print. Also, I have social media channels that you can feel free to check out as well over on my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram or Bookstagram, where I post a little bit more frequently than I do here on my YouTube channel. So today, like I mentioned, we are going to go over my February recap in terms of books that I read. So I read 5 print books and 4 audiobooks. So that, I guess I can say I'm surprised at how many books I read. I read 9 books also in the month of January, where we had, 2, 3 extra days, and also read 9 books in February where we only had 28. So yes, I was not expecting that, but definitely happy that that happened. And I did have a long TBR for February. I always have long TBRs. I don't know, I tend to be very optimistic, but also when I do recaps, I am realistic with, time just got away from me and that's okay. And I try to finish books in the month. I try not to bleed them over into March, but there was one that I did start in February that bled into March, but I didn't feel the need to rush through it. And that's what I like when I do my TBRs and my recap videos. It's like, I don't want to feel rushed at all. First up is Layla by Colleen Hoover. So this was gifted to me by actually my aunt's friend on Bookstagram, so I found that was a very pleasant surprise. I'd already gotten this from the library, and then once I had almost finished reading the library copy, this showed up at my door, so I was very excited. So now I get to add this to my collection of Colleen Hoover books. But this follows Layla and Leeds, these 2 characters that meet at I think it's like a wedding reception where Leeds is in a band and Layla is the sister of the bride, and they develop a relationship and that progresses, and then a tragic accident occurs, or tragic event I should say occurs, and they go back to the bed and breakfast or hotel where they had first met to kind of rekindle their romance and like find their happiness and love and kind of restart over again. And then there's some paranormal activities, some ghost kind of stuff happening, and Leeds kind of torn in 2 different directions of communicating with this ghost and trying to save his girlfriend slash fiance, Layla. So it's intriguing. If you've read anything by Colleen Hoover, she does have a lot of like romance and like contemporary issues thrown in, but this along with Verity, I think are in the same psychological thriller-y kind of vein, where Colleen Hoover is expanding her reach a little bit, or her style, and throwing in some different nuances, still including the romantic contemporary fiction in there, but also like the paranormal, the psychological, the creepy and kind of stuff. So yeah, this wasn't my favorite Colleen Hoover novel, but it was one that was different for sure. I just was getting very angry with the male character Leeds for like infidelity, for just like the motivations that he had. It just made me so frustrated with his character. So yeah, not bad, but not the greatest Colleen Hoover novel that I read. Then we have The Little French Bistro by Nina George, and I've read The Little Paris Bookshop years ago, read that in a day, and I almost read this in a day as well. It's just a very gripping novel, but I don't know, even looking at the book cover itself, it looks kind of like lighthearted, not like it's going to be a good story, but it starts off kind of dark and morbid, and I don't know, it just put me in a funk, I guess, reading through the rest of the story, which I guess it only got better after the event that took place in the beginning of the novel. So I guess that was good, but just to start off with like a jarring event like that, it was a little much for me. But as it progressed, the character of Marianne, she's the main lead. She is in a loveless marriage. She's depressed. She wants more to life and she doesn't know how to get it. And she finds herself at this, I think it's the south of France little area around like summertime where a lot of tourists are coming, and she is brought on, and she is German, so she like learns the language a little bit more and brought on as like a sous chef in a way, and meets all these different characters and quirky characters, I'd say, and builds relationships with them and helps the community out. So this I kind of equate to Britt Marie Was Here by Frederick Bachman, and just, I mean, I guess that one very similar, with like a little bit older in age with Britt Marie, and she is also, well, her husband cheated on her, and like I think he was divorcing her, or like they were separated, and she's like, nope, done with this. I'm going out and doing something on my own in like the most remote place I can find. So kind of similar here, but Marianne is like growing in her confidence and her ability to be independent. But like I said, it got more inspirational as the story progressed, but in the beginning it's like, goodness gracious, like she is hopeless and I don't know what's going to happen to her. Then we have I Miss You When I Blink by Mary Laura Philpott, and this is a collection of essays. So this I remember buying at the beginning of quarantine from Powell's Books in Portland, Oregon, and I was very excited because like the cover looks very inviting. I heard so many good things about it, and it says, spoiler, happiness ahead. Like clearly I'm on board for happiness. And this, I was so impressed by her writing style. I'm getting more and more into nonfiction, and this is my first collection of essays that I had read, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Just so good. And she writes a lot. I mean, she's kind of all over the place, not in a bad way or like sporadic, chaotic kind of way, but she writes about being a mom, being a wife, like dating, her role, her job, switching jobs. And like this just found me at the perfect spot, because I think I've mentioned several times on this channel where I'm figuring out like, okay, what is the purpose for the work that I do? What do I want to be doing? And how can I get there? So like she spoke to me a lot, and I feel like her personality matches mine so much. I was laughing at a lot of things she was talking about when it comes to organization and being type A and like being socially, not necessarily awkward, but like not knowing what to do in different social situations. So I related so much to her and her words, and I am thrilled to continue reading more essays by her or other writings that she produces. Then we have Twisted, The Tangled History of Black Hair Culture by Emma Dabiri, and this was my reading vlog for the month of February. So I spent a day, I think I finished this in a day. Yeah, a day reading this and just debriefing and going over different quotes, different emotions, thoughts that I had throughout it. And I did pick it because it is, or was, Black History Month at the time, but I found so much relatable content in here. Like I am mixed and I do have some black hair tendencies with like the texture of my hair and the hair pattern or the texture pattern. So it wasn't just about the nuances of that, but it was just the, how did we as Black people get to a point where we are, I guess, in two different ways. One, feeling that we need to like quote unquote tame our hair and be more like westernized or like Eurocentric with our hairstyles. And then we're seeing a flip now in the hair culture where Black women specifically, they did talk about Black men, but Black women specifically are owning the natural hair care and the natural hair, like how it grows. And you might see in a larger style, it doesn't grow down, it grows out. So it was just very interesting to see like what we, I guess, socially get put on ourselves to make our hair a certain way, and then what we internally feel we need to do with our hair. And this, again, more tabs, more quotes that I just found very enlightening. And again, it goes through like the history of like different hairstyles and what is like an homage to Black history and how we can still represent that culture and that history today and like own our hair. So that I thought was brilliant. The last print book I have is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. So this is the second book in the Harry Potter series, and I chose the illustrated edition. So my goal is to, I mean, I always like rereading the Harry Potter series, but my friend Michael, who's over in Colorado, he rereads the series every year. And when I saw that he was like doing it again for this year, he was already on Chamber of Secrets, and I asked if I can join him but read the illustrated edition. But he is at this point already read all 7, and I just read the second one, but that's okay. So this is, like I said, the sequel, and if you're not familiar with the Harry Potter series, boy wizard goes to a boarding school or magic school and learns that he is a lot different than the other kids that are there. He is the chosen one, in terms of like defeating and vanquishing evil in the form of Voldemort. So this one is him in his 2nd year at school out of 7 years at school at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, and he is dealing with the Chamber of Secrets and the heir of Slytherin, which is one of the houses. So this I just loved with all the different like pictures and photos in here. So this is Hermione. I think this is when they are going to the library to look more into the Chamber of Secrets and the heir of Slytherin. Just beautiful, beautiful artwork. And this is Nocturne Alley. So I thought that just the detail of it. So Jim Kay is the illustrator of these series and these hardback kind of tabletop books. So yeah, I enjoyed. This is not my favorite of the Harry Potter books, but I enjoyed it more because of the illustrations and the attention to detail. And then I mentioned I read 4 different audiobooks. The first one was Romanov, and this has to do with the Read Around the World Challenge, and this is set in Russia. So this details the Romanov family during the Bolshevik Revolution and their execution, which does happen in the book, but However, it does throw in some like witchcraft, magic kind of stuff with it. And when I was looking through the reviews, some people were happy about that, others were not, with like the creative freedom the author took. But I just appreciated this story in general. Like I am part Russian, like very, very, very small part. I'm more Italian, and I'm a quarter Italian and like an 1/8 Russian, I think, somewhere in there. But I didn't really know too much about Russia, and I chose a book that wasn't like a Tolstoy because I wanted a different kind of perspective on what we think of when we think of Russia and like literature. And I enjoyed just learning about that family. I like did some research after I read the book and like looked up different photos and what like really happened, because there was some it was historical fiction, a young adult version of historical fiction. So there were some liberties taken, which is fine, but I wanted to learn a little bit more. So I appreciated the history lesson that I got out of that and learning more about Russia. I also read The Guest List by Lucy Foley, and this details kind of like a back and forth thriller, I guess you could say, with a wedding. It's set in Ireland, and this family, this couple, and like their bridesmaids, best man, and I think the staff all have alternating perspectives and chapters. So you're going back and forth between this event of somebody's dead and they're trying to figure out who it is, and then back to like it leading up to that event happening. So I love when stories do that. It gets me so engaged and trying to figure out like who done it, who's dead, because none of that is revealed in the first few chapters. And I feel I did rank it a little bit low because the ending was so fast. Like I didn't mind the twists and turns of it, but it literally wrapped up in terms of audiobook, a few minutes. I don't know what that looks like in pages, but I was like, oh, that's the end. That's how they're gonna wrap it up. So I was a little disappointed with the speed of that, because like, yes, the rest of it was pretty speedy, but in terms of like the pacing of it, but they still expanded on the details and like the story itself. I think they just wrapped it up way too fast. So yeah, and other than that, I thought it was very enjoyable and fun to try to figure out. I did not guess correctly what happened. I had so many theories throughout, but yeah, it's always fun to try to guess and do like a murder mystery kind of thing and figure out what details you might have missed. I also listened to Here Comes the Sun, and that was another Read Around the World Challenge book selection, and this was set in Jamaica. And this I appreciated because it went beyond what we think of in terms of tourism. When we think of Jamaica, it had to do with a lot of the women and them not growing up in the best part of the country and making a living in the touristy areas. So a few of the women in the story were working at a hotel, and some were basically selling themselves or like earning money by being with the wealthy patrons of the hotel or the area and trying to make a better life for themselves. It talks about LGBTQ issues and what that looks like in the country of Jamaica and how people were treated there. So yeah, it was, again, very interesting. The only book that I had known that talks about Jamaica, not in terms of tourism, is Sun is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon, and that had to do with immigration and deportation back to Jamaica from the United States, and talking about like it's not all Irie, as folks tend to say, like that's very much a part of like the touristy vibe. And I liked in this story particular, it was very sad, I will say that, even though the cover and the title is bright and here comes the sun, so they are looking for more optimistic opportunities, but the way they have to get there is a little bit tragic, and like the realities of what they have to deal with. The last book I read for the month of February was Unfinished by Priyanka Chopra Jonas, and this is her first memoir. So I first learned about Priyanka Chopra at the time in the TV show Quantico on ABC, and I like thought she was beautiful, fantastic, amazing actress. And then I learned a little bit more about her as she, you know, like married Nick Jonas and got involved with a lot of humanitarian work. But reading her story, and she is the narrator, which I love when authors do that. If they wrote the book themselves, they are the speaker or the commentator or narrator of it. So that was amazing to hear her voice and like her excitement when she talked about her family. And this I also put in terms of the Read Around the World Challenge was set in India. She was born in India, and her parents were both doctors, and she talked about going to boarding school and then going to America to go to school and going through the Miss India World pageant. And it was just incredible, her story. Like, yes, she got a lot of, I guess, fame through that, and that led to a lot of her acting, but before then she was studying to be, I believe, a doctor or some kind of science or medical field. So she's super smart, very dedicated to doing the best for other people. So again, with the humanitarian work. And it's really neat to hear about like Indian families and how they support each other. And it's just expected in a good way that you will take each other in when you need them, or somebody needs something. So when she went to the United States, she stayed with her, I believe it was like her aunt and uncle, and they put her up and was able to go, like get her to school and all this kind of stuff. And just her experiences both living in, well, I guess 3 places. The United Kingdom, she was there for a while, I believe, filming, and then with India and the United States. So yeah, just an amazing woman. I want her to write more. I want to just hear her speak. Just amazing. So those are all the books that I read for the month of February. I have detailed them here in my Little Inklings planner, or Always Fully Booked planner. So I'm getting a little bit better with the, I guess, calligraphy, but I think this is probably the easiest style to do, is this block lettering. I still have to fill in a memorable quote, so I'm not really sure where, because you saw how many tabs I put in at least those 2 books, what I'm going to put there. So number of books read, 9. The best book I read for the month was I Miss You When I Blink. Number of pages read, including audio, is 3,635. No ebooks. I'm sorry, I just don't do those. And then the genres read were sci-fi, thriller, nonfiction, young adult, and contemporary. So yeah, I love expanding my reading life even more every month and seeing kind of like the patterns or not that are involved with the books that I choose. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Other things in February, I should have mentioned too with Twisted. I talked a lot about that when I went to a Black History Month and Books event at the Cincy Library Friends, and it was fantastic to talk with other bookstagrammers in the area about representation. So that was a fun event in February, and then I bought myself a bunch of books on Valentine's Day. I can't help it. I love treating myself and showing myself self-love. And one of those books from there or from Black History Month and Books will be read in March. So again, check out that video if you want to see what that lineup looks like. But yeah, let me know what books you read in the month of February, what books you're excited for this month, and anything else you want to share based off of what I had shared today in the video. So if you like it, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below. Feel free to hit subscribe or the notification bell to know when I upload videos next. I usually have 1 video a week on Mondays. Sometimes I'll have 2. In that case, it's like Monday and Wednesday or Monday and Thursday. Kind of just depends on when I'm able to edit. And yeah, I have my coffee and wish list listed below. If you want to support me in a different kind of way, feel free to do that. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day and happy reading.